This is an NBC News special report. Here are Peter Alexander and Laura Jarrett.
Good morning and welcome to this NBC News special report. I'm Peter Alexander alongside Laura Jarrett. This morning there is news out of the Middle East, 484 days in the making.
An American-Israeli hostage, Keith Siegel, who has been held in Gaza since the October 7th Hamas terror attack some 484 days ago, has been freed along with 2 other Israeli hostages. In return, the Israelis are freeing nearly 200 Palestinian prisoners.
There he is, our first look at Keith Siegel after that extended stay in captivity, being held by Hamas, released today in Gaza. This is the latest of 4 handovers in a ceasefire deal that ended 15 months of intense fighting. NBC's chief international correspondent is Keir Simmons. He's in Tel Aviv with an update right now where I trust there are celebrations, but also still grief that more remain held in captivity. Keir.
You describe it just right, Peter and Laura. Good morning to you. What a day here. What an emotional day. A day that Siegel's family has described as indescribable excitement. The crowd here in Hostage Square watching as he emerged in those pictures wearing that cap. You can see him there waving even. And then there is video of his wife, Aviva. Now remember, Aviva was released back in 2023. She had to say goodbye to him. This is her watching that moment and her reaction to seeing her husband like that, free for the first time in more than a year. He is the first American. You just can't. There's so much emotion in that video, right? Remember, he is the first American to be released in this ceasefire. He's the first American to be released alive since his wife Aviva there was released, and he told her, "I will be strong." You know, Peter, he told her, "I will be out in a few days." Instead, there's a clock across the square here that tells you it's been more than 480 days that he has been held in captivity. His daughter, Shira, has delayed her wedding in order for him to be able to be there. His mum, at 98 years old, died while he was in captivity. He has 4 children, 5 grandchildren. His family describe him as a peacemaker, as a vegetarian, somebody, they say, obviously, who did not deserve this. That video again, he looks, fit and healthy. He's now at Ream military base. We don't know at what moment he will be reunited with Aviva, but that will be extraordinary. Their daughter is putting out videos on Instagram of the family's reaction. We wait to see that incredible moment. And of course, as you mentioned, it is bittersweet. These are moments of elation, but also really difficult moments. There are 2 other hostages released today. Ophir Calderon, who was held in captivity after his 12-year-old son and teenage daughter were released. So he will be reunited with them. There are families being reunited, but there are also families who are not. So Yarden Bibas, now he was held along with his wife and 2 children, including his little boy Kafir, and there is no news of them yet. So as we watched him walk out, incredibly painful, because he will know that while he is now safe here in Israel, his wife and 2 children are not, and the worries for them, the concerns for them are just growing, Peter and Laura.
Keir, you're exactly right. The Bibas family has been the focus of so much attention because of the 2 young children that were taken with their parents. So it's a blessing to see the father released today. Still questions about the children and whether they were able to survive this awful ordeal. I'm struck as we see those pictures of Keith Siegel that we heard from Aviva Siegel back in November, back last year after she had been released, and she detailed the experience they had in captivity. She said, among other things, that that she and her husband did not have any human rights. She said in the course of the month that she was in captivity that they were moved 13 times. They were in dark caves. She said at times they didn't eat for a couple days. They had to share water where they took a sip almost every hour, once an hour, just to have it extend. So we wait to hear about her experience and his experience after she departed. What do we know, though, about those other Americans, Idan Alexander, Siegel, who are still waiting to be released?
Yeah, let me just add to what you were saying there, Peter. One of the stories about Keith shared by his wife is that while they were being held, every day he would say to the other hostages, think of something good today. That's the kind of guy that we're dealing with here. That's the kind of guy we're talking about here, who has now been freed. So, yeah, we will hear more stories, of course. And there is, truthfully, there were moments, according to his wife, Aviva, where they weren't sure if they were going to make it. So for this to be happening now today, to be watching him released and to knowing that any time now, as we are talking, they are being reunited, you know, just go back to that statement from his family, indescribable excitement. And then you mentioned the two other Americans, Siegel de Kelchen. Now, we think that, well, the expectation is that he will be released in this first phase. So we wait for that. There are more. I mean, this is a fragile ceasefire. I think you can say that every time there is a release like this, it gets a little firmer, if you like. But there are consistently moments where it looks like it could be knocked off balance. So we wait to see Siegel released in the same way as we just saw Keith released. And then Idan, yeah, he's looks like he will be released in the second phase. And the talks over that phase begin next week.
Keir, to your point, you say it's fragile. It appears to be holding, at least for now. Just walk us through what are the next steps and what's expected here in the weeks and months ahead.
Yeah, I mean, look, the ceasefire is holding, and these families are hoping, even so many families that still haven't been reunited, still haven't seen their loved ones. In these moments where hostages are released, what you're also seeing is Hamas controlling the releases. Earlier in the week, there was fury here in Israel when a release of 3 hostages was chaotic. They had to be taken through crowds. What this time, today, it's different. But in the words of one Israeli reporter we've been listening to here in Hostage Square, those words were, you know, it's very difficult to watch how in control Hamas appear to be, even at these moments of elation. So, yeah, it's bittersweet. What happens next week, there's a lot of political moments. The Prime Minister Netanyahu will travel to Washington to meet with President Trump. That will be the first. He will be the first foreign leader to meet with President Trump since the inauguration. And then later in the week, I'm told by Gulf diplomats, the talks for the second phase will begin in Doha. And that, again, will be a challenge because that's the phase where the ceasefire could be made permanent. There could be that agreement. Then there's a third phase, which is about potential reconstruction of Gaza and who runs Gaza. Incredibly controversial, very, very difficult.
Keir Simmons with the breaking news. Israeli-American Keith Siegel now out of captivity and home.
Keir, thank you very much. So the blessing today that 3 more individuals have been released from captivity. That leaves 79 other hostages still waiting to return to their families, including 2 other Americans. We will, of course, be staying on top of these latest developments coming out of Israel and Gaza later this morning on Saturday Today, of course, on NBCNews.com, and tonight on NBC Nightly News. This has been an NBC News special report.